Master Reddit, subscribe for more videos.
What's the creepiest or most unexplainable thing you've ever seen that you haven't shared anywhere? Serious. Back in 2016 my mother was staying at my place because my father was in the hospital at the time and my apartment was right next to the hospital. One night I had this dream that the landline rings and my mother answers the phone and hears the news that my dad has passed away. She hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle, a doctor at the hospital my father was in, just gave her the news of my father's passing. I wake up startled. I have a drink of water, and just as I start feeling relieved that this was all just a bad dream, the phone rings and my mom picks it up. I was just watching her from a distance, noticing the expression on her face, noticing the tears that started dripping down her cheek, and she hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle just told her that my father has passed away. This is the only unexplained thing that ever happened to me, and this is the first time I share this with anybody. As a kid I had weirdly specific dreams that became true as well, but it was only about how and what candy I get on the day. I am sorry for your loss. Edit. Okay, this got big. For those who thought that my dream influenced my choice in candy on the next day, the dream looked like this. I was sitting with my bro in our room, my mom comes home, telling us we get candy from the closet in the living room as usual. My brother and I run to the closet, I jump on the couch, my brother jumping from excitement next to me. Finally my mom came in with the key and gives us that one specific peanut candy. On the next day it happened as dreamed. I wondered all day long if I would get candy and if I get the peanut one. My mom never asked us what kind we wanted, and I can't control that my brother stays on the ground. Some say it was a deja vu, but they feel different for me. I don't think so. Me too. I had dreams that were weirdly vivid that were from my viewpoint that would happen later. I was convinced I could see the future, but my predictions were pretty useless lol. I've since learned there's a form of deja vu that makes you feel like something you're doing you've dreamed of before. Edit. It's called dejarev, courtesy of /u/f22_android smile. Dejarev. I experience it a lot. It always is so crazy when I'm experiencing the moment in real life, and I'm like, wow, I've been here before. Sometimes I purposely say a different thing or do a different action than how my dream went, and it feels like changing my destiny or something. Haha. I got recalled into work and was driving at about 3 a.m. I was in a very rural area in western Washington. As I come around a curve I see a woman in a nightgown on the side of the road looking up at a steep embankment. Just standing there staring away from the road. There are no homes nearby, not for miles. I call 911 and pull over about a minute up the road not knowing what to think. Deputies showed up, couldn't locate anyone, and was as dumbfounded as I was. Happened to me before on a dark back road to my house. There is no street lights, the road is very curvy, and it was about 2 a.m. She was standing on a bend in the road on the edge while the cliff behind her was about 100 to 200 feet drop. There are no homes for about 2 miles up the hill. I was driving very slow to make the turn, so I got a good look with my headlights. I make it around the corner and look back, nothing. Creepiest thing ever. White older lady in a white nightgown just staring. She jumped. That actually happened to me. I was about 13 years old and was on my bike. I crossed the bridge in town and saw an electric wheelchair scooter sitting empty, thinking it was odd. As I looked back I see a man standing on the other side of the guardrail for a split second before he jumped. I had passed him and didn't even see him. My brain didn't even register what had happened and I went about my day. After a week I guess I was acting strange because my parents finally asked what was wrong. I told them, spoke to a school counselor and ended up putting in a police report. I was told by the police that even if I had reacted they figure the man died on impact with the water and that there was nothing I could have done. Still have regrets about not doing anything, but I honestly don't think my brain could comprehend what was going on. Edit. Thanks to everyone who responded. It's been good to hear your stories and talk with you. To anyone suffering from depression, please make sure to reach out to your family, a friend or a suicide hotline before it goes too far. And to those who have lost someone or have witnessed someone take their life, you aren't alone and please seek any help you need to deal with the pain, even if it's just talking to a stranger on Reddit. Stay strong my friends. What is it with ghosts wearing white, flowing nightgowns? Just once I want to hear about a girl ghost rocking SpongeBob pajama pants and fuzzy mismatched socks. Yeah. It is always a soldier in uniform or a woman in a white dress. You never see someone rocking parachute pants or platform shoes. Typically ghosts linger because of unfinished business. You think someone with frosted tips and wearing Jenko jeans is going to die with any regrets? My father died when I was 15. In my freshman year of college, me and my roommate in the dorms were somewhat close, but really had only been known each other for a month when the creepy thing happened. I hadn't told her much about my childhood, but she knew that my father had passed. One day she woke me up and asked me, "Did your father used to call you, insert silly childhood nickname here?" I hadn't heard that name since I was 6 or 7. I definitely never told her that he used to call me that, as it was a repressed memory that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Anyway, as it turned out, she had a dream that my father had come to her, and asked her to take care of me, calling me by this silly childhood nickname. It was always difficult for me that my father never saw me graduate high school or start college. But I guess he did, from wherever he is now. When I was about 9, in the 1970s, I was playing football in the street. A bus came along, so I jumped up on the pavement. As it passed, I noticed my aunt and she smiled and waved to me. When the bus had gone, I carried on playing. I went home several hours later to find my aunt had died the previous evening. I once had a dream right around the time of day that my grandma passed. She was on a bus and happy it could be. It stopped near my grandfather and I, on the road next to theirs, and she wanted me to go along. My grandfather kept insisting that I can't go. The bus left and she was smiling and laughing as she was going to the big casino in the sky. She loved going to the casinos. I woke up shortly after from a phone call that she had died about 15 minutes ago. A very good friend of mine was battling lung cancer. He seemed to be responding very well to treatment and was looking pretty damn good for having finished chemo. He contracted pneumonia, but he was doing so well we thought he would be pull through. Went to bed that night and shortly after 10 I get this very odd sensation of someone passing through my room. Like there was a presence in my room, but it felt light and very free. My immediate thought was both, that was friend, and checked the time. But I didn't, I ignored it and tried to go to sleep. Slept like shit all night because I knew something was wrong, but I was trying to rationalize it. Got to work the next morning and checked Facebook, absolutely knowing in my heart what I am going to see, but hoping I won't. Friend had passed shortly after 10 the night before. Around 10 days later I had a very vivid dream that I was sitting in a cafe outside in the sunshine with friend. He looked great, very healthy and well. He had a very distinctive laugh that everyone in my family mimics when we talk about him, and I remember him laughing in the dream. We had a long conversation I unfortunately don't remember the details of. After we were done talking he went inside to the restaurant and I followed. He sat down at this big table and all these people started coming in to sit with him. They were looking at me with mild curiosity, like who are you and why are you here, but not in a threatening way. I remember thinking in my dream, I don't belong here. I woke up, but felt relieved from the burden of grief I was carrying for friend. I know he's okay now. Interesting these comments about buses. After my granddad died of Alzheimer's when I was a teenager I was so upset and I cried myself to sleep for a long time. Then one night a few weeks later I dreamt we were sat on the bus together chatting away, which was lovely because he hadn't been himself for a few years before he died. After a while he pressed the bell and said this was his stop and he was sorry he couldn't stay on longer with me. We hugged and said our goodbyes and he got off, smiled and waved and tipped his cap as the bus pulled away. It was the goodbye I never got to have and I felt such a sense of relief and closure after that dream. It was almost 20 years ago and I remember it vividly. I was 10 years / riding my bicycle at dusk along the road I lived on which was parallel to a set of railroad tracks. I moved off the road as a car sped by and a beer bottle came sailing at me from the front passenger seat. I could see 2 young women turned around laughing at me through the back window. I flipped them off, and kept riding. About 30 seconds later, I heard the train slam into them. When I was about 11 or 12 I went with my friend and my younger brother to play football in a park that was in a pretty remote place so there were never many people. Basically 3 or 4 people came dressed in like Victorian-style clothes, set up a box underneath a tree with big branches, tied a rope around it. One of them stood there with this noose around his neck and then his friend kicked the box so he was hanging. They took turns doing this, and we left. Was super weird thinking back to it and I have to check with my brother whenever I think about it to make sure it actually happened. Edit, for people asking how did they not die, they were taking turns etc. From what I remember, the box mustn't have been particularly high relative to the length of the rope, so there wasn't much of a drop if any. I don't remember how long they were swinging for but I suppose it must have been between 15 seconds to a minute. Then the friends would put the box back for the one hanging to stand on so they could get down, and someone else would take their place. Theory, you encountered a group of people from the Victorian era who attained immortality somehow. Once per year they go out to enjoy the summer air and check if they're still immortal. This sounds like an edgy photoshoot to me. That's what I thought as well, some photoshoot or a video / movie someone was making. Either that or some elaborate sex game. In my mother's house, the basement light would turn on while we were away, and even if it was turned off before we left, it was somehow back on when we got back. Once I went downstairs and was like, "Hey Mr. Ghostman, this is not good for the bills, could you PLS chill it with the lights? Yes, I know it's dark down here, okay thanks." Light stayed off. Edit, holy Christ, more than 2 people upvoted me, what? Also, no, I have not seen Parasite. She lives in a small townhome and the basement is small, bare, and open. If someone could hide in there, I'd be extremely impressed given the complete lack of hiding spaces. When I get the chance, I'll give her a nightlight for Mr. Ghost when I see her. It's what he deserves. Also, if we did have a squatter, that person wouldn't be able to hide very long. My dog and 2 cats live there, all of which are very alert to strangers, smell or looks, especially the dog. My friend and I were sleeping in my parents' room one night when she was over, and it was probably about 3 a.m. Suddenly we hear a sound like a fart from the corner of the room, and distinctly from this one corner. So I ask my friend if she farted, and of course she says no, as it clearly came from that corner. Thinking maybe it's my dogs, as they sometimes sleep in my parents' room, I go and check it out but realize they're not in the room with us. Okay, so that's weird, I thought, and my friend also said she heard a distinct fart too, so we assumed that maybe we both misheard. Then all of a sudden an unknown caller starts ringing my phone and I don't answer because at this point I'm freaked the fuck out. After I decline the call, I receive a message from an unknown caller with the same area code as the caller who had just called me. The text message is all in Spanish and me and my friend decide to paste the text into Google Translate. Word proceeds to say, "Did you hear that fart?" Needless to say, we never slept in my parents' room again, and we're convinced that we have a Spanish farting ghost in our presence. Edit, no brothers that would have pranked me either. I have a sister, but she was as amused as I was when I told her. Freaky shit. Spanish farting ghost are 3 words that I never thought I'd see together until I read this story. In Spain, they're just called farting ghosts. Espiritus de flatulencia. My dorm hall had some weird shit happen, but one of the weirdest was that I went to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. The sink was right next to the entrance, and as I washed my face, I saw and heard the door open and noticed a figure move to the end of the stalls. I figured a girl had just come in to use the bathroom. I dry off my face and begin brushing my teeth but realized I didn't hear anyone else. I checked each stall and no one was in there. I quickly grabbed my stuff and noped out. Something similar happened to me at my old university. This dorm was always known as the haunted dorm, but it was quiet for the most part and I really enjoyed living there. Creepy things would occasionally happen there, like sometimes before bed I'd feel like I was being watched, but it was never intensely scary. Then one day I'm in the shower, and it's a community bathroom so anyone can come in at any time, and I hear someone open the bathroom door, set something down, and all the while they're humming some song. It's actually kind of pleasant and I planned on complimenting them when I got out of the shower, but as soon as I get out, the humming stops and there's no one there. I go out in the hall, and there's no one out there either. I go back in the bathroom, and quickly realize there was no one ever in that bathroom with me to begin with. I told someone else about it who lived in the building with me, but she didn't believe me so I never really spoke about it again. I was working in a retail store in a pretty sketchy area. There was this lady who was obviously a heavy drug user or ex-drug user. She must have been in her 50s or 60s. She was notorious on my block for being a crazy, but she'd visit me all the time and told me she thought I was cute. It was really bizarre cause she looked like a crackhead, but she'd act like a teenage girl around me. I tried to be nice to her cause she was known for being volatile. Anyway, on Christmas Eve she packed an entire Christmas dinner which she told me was all home-cooked Guyanese food and a cologne set. As she was leaving she just squats down on the floor and throws her hand up and starts cackling. Yes, cackling which faded to a giggle. Never saw her again. Edit, yes, I ate it, and I enjoyed it. Confirmed with some Guyanese Redditors, main dish was definitely pepper pot. Second edit, so a lot of you seem really surprised I ate the food. Some describing it as insanity. Some as a mark of true bravery. Let me be very clear, the point of the post wasn't even about me eating the food. I basically take free food from a stranger any given day of the week. From the moment she handed me the food, I knew I was going to eat it. Neither the prior knowledge of her being a druggie nor any action she would take after handing me the food was going to change this. I was in my final year at uni, and I worked as a TA for a language professor. This meant teaching 1-hour sessions multiple times a week. I basically lived in the, known to be haunted, humanities building. One Tuesday after my final class and before my first lesson of the evening, I was in the staff room heating up my shitty microwave dinner. A woman I had never seen before came in. Obligatory let me just scooch past ya. And check the time on the coffee machine. Now I found it odd that this university employee came here just to check the time on the coffee machine. You don't have a phone/computer/watch/clock. But who am I and my lean cuisine to judge? She looks at the time on the coffee machine and says, "That can't be right. What time is it?" Me, it's 5:37. Her, 5 minutes fast. Okay. With that she left, and although a bit odd, I didn't dwell on the interaction. That is, until 1 week later, Tuesday evening, I was again heating up my food when she enters. Obligatory let me just scooch past ya and check the time. That can't be right. What time is it? I look at my phone. It is exactly 5:37. I tell her, and once again she says 5 minutes fast. Okay, and leaves. I am deeply unsettled. The microwave dings. I take my lean cuisine and quickly head upstairs. Never saw that woman again. Edit, thanks for the Yikes award. Exactly my feelings. Edit 2, you're all thinking this was Wisconsin, but it was Missouri. That is the most Midwestern scary story I've ever heard. I was probably 18 years old, and was driving at night to see a friend. This man kind of jumped in front of the car to make me stop. He honestly looked crazy. I slowed down the car to almost stop, and he moved to talk to me, I think through the window. But I just drove off once he got out of the way. I was so creeped out. I never told anyone because I felt guilty that I didn't help him. Honestly, there's been a lot of cases where good Samaritans got murdered. I wouldn't blame you for driving off. Might have been a carjacking attempt even. Yeah, it's never good to stop for something like that at night. Best you can do is call the cops. It sucks if the person really needed help, but not worth putting yourself in danger. Especially now that cell phones are a thing. People stopping you for the right reasons tend to stand to the side to give you an option to pass, but make it clear they're requesting you talk to them. Demanding you stop by standing in the path of the car is rarely good news. Here's a creepy/weird story. During a road trip from NJ to NC, my friend and I decided we were hungry and went looking for food in a town in Maryland. I don't remember the name of the town, but it felt very strange as soon as we pulled onto the main road, as there didn't seem to be any people out and about. It was the middle of the day, but no one was walking around. There weren't any restaurant food options other than a pizza place, so we pulled up and parked in front of the pizza place. It seemed like everyone in the town must have gone to that pizza place. When we parked the car, everyone in the restaurant turned and looked at our car through the big glass windows. Like, at the same time. They stared at us, we stared at them. It felt so weird that I said, "I don't want to go in there." My friend just nodded at me wide-eyed, and we drove to another town for lunch. Why was seemingly the whole town in that pizza place? What was with the staring? I'm almost a little sorry we didn't go in to find out, but at the same time not sorry at all. I just wanted to do a quick edit because I want to answer everyone's questions. As much as I would like to address them individually, I don't think I will be able. I wish I knew the name of the town. I think I never actually knew it. This story takes place 20 years ago. Google wasn't a thing. I think I had a beeper. I was new to driving, so using a paper map, my equally young and unexperienced in travel friend and I drove through the western part of Maryland to avoid major cities en route to Asheville, North Carolina. After reading everyone's comments, I agree we probably stumbled on a small town party or a very busy lunch hour. It just felt so scary to us at the time. I agree it seems Lovecraftian/Stephen King-esque. I also hope we weren't going to be on the next day's menu. No, we were two 16 to 17-year-old white girls with dark brown hair. This was midday, I was driving, no headlights. I hope this answers everyone's questions. I'm going to go enjoy Friday night as best as I can, with some Moscow mules, and hope everyone is staying safe. Dude, backwoods towns can be downright scary. A couple friends and I took a road trip coast to coast and we stopped in a few weird little towns to walk around and eat. Most of them were full of super sweet, very welcoming people, really made me think much more highly of America in general. But this one place in Arkansas, we stopped to get gas at this little shop thing. Now, one of my friends was black. Pretty light-skinned, but he had an afro back then and was pretty apparently black. The second we got out of the car at that gas station, 4 separate people stopped what they were doing and stared at my friend so angrily. Like we could all see them tensing up. I just looked at him and my other friend and we silently agreed to get the fuck out of there. Ah yes, Arkansas. I've never been there myself, but my dad says that they have the weirdest small towns he's ever seen. He has this one story about driving through Arkansas, and they get to this little town. They never get out of the vehicle, they never stop. But as they're driving through, my dad noticed that everyone in the town was just staring at them. Creepiest shit I've ever heard. It's been almost 10 years and I still don't have anything that's somewhat close to an explanation what happened then. My bestie and me were sleeping over at her grandma's house and enjoying the newly renovated attic as it was supposed to become her little teenager apartment. All new furniture with a huge comfy couch and nice clean boards screwed to the wall, all in white pink. Sleepover went just like you would imagine it, with two 15-year-old girls painting nails, watching DVDs and talking about the hottest gossip at school. It was already like 3 a.m. when we decided to go get some sleep and left the room to sleep in the bed next door. Only a few minutes later we heard a little scratching sound followed by a loud bang, clearly coming from the room we just left. One of the boards that were screwed to the wall was lying on the floor, almost 4 meters away from where it was supposed to be. Not like screw broke and it fell. Nope. Solid 4 meters away from that wall. Almost 2 centimeters deep hole in the ground where the board was laying. The holes in the wall looked like something grabbed that board and pulled it straight out, ripping the wood and concrete it was drilled to. Still getting goosebumps remembering it. I had something similar. My mother and I were in my room because she had to use the computer that I was on when we heard a bang come from the kitchen. I went to look and the clock that's normally on the wall was on the floor, leaning against the leg of a chair, maybe 7 feet from the wall. I figured it must have just fallen off the screw. No, because directly beneath it is a coat rack, followed by a shoe rack. It would have fallen, bounced off the coat rack, and flopped either on or behind the shoe rack. That's not what it did. The path from where it hung to the chair was an arc that completely bypassed the coat rack. Not to mention that it had been several months since daylight savings time, so it wasn't touched any time recently. A few months later, I found the clock on the kitchen table with pieces of glass missing. I asked my parents about it and they said that they came home to it on the floor, broken, but they cleaned it up. The second time may or may not be the same thing, but I can't say for certain because I'm not the one who initially found it. Nonetheless, I couldn't figure a valid way that the thing could have not just fallen, but actually launched itself away from the wall. When I was a kid I was playing in our kitchen when I saw a huge dark figure walk past the kitchen and down the hallway leading to the bedrooms. I walked to our back patio and saw the rest of my family watching TV. The patio is on the opposite side of the house from the hallway. I walked to the hallway and started looking for who it could have been but never found anyone. Still have no idea who or what it could have been, but it's always creeped me out thinking about it. This happened to me too, but it was my 6 feet 7 inches uncle looking for beer in the garage past our bedrooms. I wish I had a big relative to pin this on, lol. I never make it in time to answer these and I've pretty much kept this story to myself. I remember telling one person who told me don't repeat that, don't mess with whatever that was, so I didn't. I guess read at your own risk. When I was 10 I went with my parents to this campground so they could visit their friends. They had a son who I got along with, same age. Sometimes however if there was other kids around the son would try and pick on me to impress them. Me and the son went fishing and right as we're about to leave another kid comes and joins us and the son immediately starts picking on me. Not wanting to be stuck on a boat and teased I decided to leave and walk back to the campground by myself. I didn't want to go straight back to my parents because they'd ask why I wasn't with the son, and I didn't want to get into it. So I just walked on this U-shaped road. In the center of the U are campers and on the other side is woods with a lake around it. At the very center of the U is a park. Perfect. I think I'll just sit on the swings until I think enough time has passed to go back. As I'm on the swings I notice a path directly across from me. I get up and start walking along this dirt path. There are reeds on either side of me and I have my hands stretched out as I walk dead center of this path. My hands can just barely touch these reeds unless I move closer to one side. I walk for about 10 minutes maybe and I get to this pond. Crystal clear water and I have this urge to drink it. It looks so refreshing. I kneel down and suddenly the hairs on the back of my neck go straight up. It was like I snapped back into myself. What am I doing? Why am I about to drink pond water? Why did I walk down this path? I start feeling really uneasy so I turn around and start walking the same way I came. Let me clarify. There was only one path. Straight. I made no turns, I didn't walk around this pond. I simply walked to the end of the path, got freaked out about something and turned around. Suddenly all types of bugs were now around. I kept walking and I noticed the dirt path is getting more and more narrow. The reeds and tall grass are now at my arms and there's a constant buzzing feeling in my ears from these bugs. The path gets so narrow that I have to walk sideways to avoid the reeds. I yell out help and I hear a voice ask if I'm okay. I reply I'm lost and a woman says just walk straight honey, I see you. I see nothing, it's just tall grass and reeds. I walk a few feet and see the road. I am scratched from head to toe and there's a woman by the playground asking what happened. She takes a Kleenex out of her pocketbook and starts wiping some of the scratches and I tell her what happened. I look behind me and see no path. I'm at the same park. I'm in front of the swing I was just on. The woman looks at me and tells me that I shouldn't even think about it and to just forget it happened because I'm fine now. But she really emphasized not to talk about it. I've always been on the fence about it. I'm sure there was one path in and one path out. The bugs could have steered me off course. Maybe me being paranoid? Or something more sinister that nearly trapped me for good. There are legends of Fae leading children off paths in the forest and encouraging them to eat and drink so they have to stay there forever. Like the changeling stories and such. Freaky deaky. My mom once told me that my paternal grandmother would yell out for me whenever we finished camping in a forest. She said that my grandma would insist on having everyone yell out my name, and to yell out "Come back, we're leaving." They would do this despite me being right next to them. She said there are tiny little gnomes that would take a child's soul to play in the trees. And if they didn't yell out for me to return before they left, that my soul would be stuck there forever. Some missing 411 shit right there, man. Lots of stories about people doing stuff they wouldn't normally do and going places along a path and then the path disappears. Scary shit. I remember this Vietnamese guy on Reddit saying how near his family farm they talked about not getting close to an area alone because bad things would happen. But one day he was alone and just had an urge to go there. When he was walking he said it felt and looked completely different from what you can see from afar. He said the forest just felt malicious to him suddenly and he stumbled his way out after a few minutes. The whole thing was everyone in his family and farm was looking for him and he was actually missing for like 36 hours. That one freaked me out and I wish I saved the comment. If anyone else did, please post a link. My father was my grandmother's favorite child out of 6, partially because he was by far the youngest out of 10 children. She nicknamed him Little Mountain, as the last character in his Chinese name was Shan, or Mountain. I remember going to her funeral when she passed, and we were burning paper money for her to use in the afterlife, a Taiwanese/Chinese tradition. I vividly remember watching my dad picking up a scrap of half-burnt money and making a sort of strangled noise. It was burnt in such a way that it resembled the character, even down to the middle prong being longer than the other two. I'm seriously not religious, or superstitious, but that was probably the closest I ever got to believing in the supernatural, or at least ghosts. Well, I think I may have shared this once before, but I was driving with someone through a very odd, small town in Arizona. As soon as we entered the city limits, I felt this extreme heaviness. Very surreal, dark, almost like a shroud of evil. As soon as we exited the limits, we both, not having spoken in a few minutes, said, "Did you feel that?" We both did. It was really weird. About a month later, I was reading Time magazine, I think it was Time, and there was an article about that town and how it is so well known for cult-like polygamy and child marriage, etc. that explained a lot. This is crazy. My wife and I stayed in Kanab while visiting Zion National Park. We drove through Colorado City after getting booze from the state-run liquor store in St. George. As we passed through Colorado City, I remember her saying this town is fucking creepy. I'm 100% sure it was Colorado City. I had forgotten about that until I read this post and just read up on the town's history on Wiki. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button and comment below letting me know. It helps the channel and lets me create more content just like this. If you do like this type of content, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload.